But
Didn't Trump supposedly have it when he was shot?
Yeah,
so
we gave it
yeah,
to him.
so let me share this.
Okay.
Let's
Oh,
do
yeah,
it.
that'd be
Marla
great.
Maples gave Donald Trump one of the
She's a student too.
one of the mini Zohars, which I happen to quote here, and about I don't know, maybe 2-3 months before the assassination attempt, because some of the Kabbalistic mystics were saying that it's showing there's a potential of assassination. So they put with the Zohar.
Oh, they warned Trump.
Yeah,
Wow.
Marla gave it to him, and Donald Trump says, "I'm keeping this one with me," and they gave it to a security detail around him. And so then came the assassination attempt. Then came the golf course. So he had the Zohar.
Oh, he did have it on him.
I don't know if he had it on him at that moment, but he had to make the connection.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's
he might have had it with him, but I can't.
Because we all know it was a miraculous head turn.
We're getting one on his plane. I told him Marla's going to work on getting one on his plane. Awesome. We surrounded. No, do we have time for a story?
Yeah.
So when you make a connection to the Zohar, the connection's made. It lasts forever. Mm-hmm. Some people just make one connection. Some people should read it every day. Most people should read it every day or meditate on it. Share it, pass it around to people. It is the light. It's not a book. So one day, Marla Maples is at my house with Tiffany, and Donald Trump and Melania come to pick up Tiffany. And what happened about a week prior to that, did I ever tell you this story?
No, I don't think so.
A guy that Marla was dating at the time, wonderful, amazing guy, gave a mini Zohar to a prince in the Middle East.
Okay? I know, that's what, yeah.
And he took it. And then the Rav, maybe, weeks later, was saying, we need to get Zohars in some country. I'm not allowed to say, in the Middle East. But we can't ship them from Israel because they won't accept the shipment, right? It's going to be too controversial going to a Muslim country. So Marla's boyfriend said, I have a friend, this prince, I'm going to say his name, and he can get it into Bahrain. He's friends with the general there. So he did. The Zohars were shipped to Bahrain. Now, Saturday night, Marla comes over with her boyfriend and Tiffany. Tiffany was good friends with my daughter. And we're all hanging out in the house. And then Donald Trump comes up to pick up Tiffany. At the same time, the prince calls and says, Bahrain's going to burn the Zohars. They're freaking out. They see it's Hebrew writing, blah, blah, blah. They're freaking out. I'm going to ship them away, blah, blah. And so we're now fighting with the prince. You can't burn them. They're sacred, blah, blah, blah. It even explains Islam in the Zohar and blah, 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 and this whole thing. And Trump pulls up. I go outside. I have a nice conversation for about 15 minutes. That's when I saw, he talks to everybody. Yeah. And he's curious.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I was like, this is, way before the election, before 2016. This is probably around 2012, if I'm not mistaken, or 2013. Well, what a great freaking guy. And I once spoke to him on the phone, but with Marla, but something else, but you couldn't really tell. Just a great guy. Zero ego in terms of uppity, I'm Donald Trump. He wants to talk like he's on you, like amazing. Anyways, so that happens. And I believe another friend of mine already gave him the Zohar in New York at Trump Tower. Uh-huh. Okay, so he had one at home. He's at my house as we're dealing with Bahrain. We make the connection, and then he goes and wins the election. And Marla broke up with his boyfriend years ago. Years went by, and then the first peace treaty with the Abraham Accords was Bahrain. And so Marla calls me, and I haven't spoken to her for maybe about 6 months at that point, and her boyfriend a couple of years. They all called me that day. Did you see that? We did it. The Zohar's in Bahrain. So the Zohar, and I can tell you stories like we went to Chernobyl. We surrounded the most toxic lake in Chernobyl, Lake Globokaya, under the auspices of the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences, blah, blah, blah. We lowered the levels of strontium-90 and cesium-137 by 20%, 30%, blah, blah, blah. Amazing. I had a meeting with Bill Clinton, showing him the results and the report the Academy of Sciences did, blah, blah, blah. Clinton was already out of office, but he was going to help us. He was going to hook us up with some more nuclear power companies. Karen Berg, the wife of my teacher and the true spiritual giant herself, says, I always said to the Rav, you're messing too close with Satan with this nuclear stuff, and it's not time yet, blah, blah, blah. The levels fell, the levels dropped. We were doing another experiment in Europe at one of the largest nuclear facilities in Europe, one in Florida, and the Rav had a stroke. And the Rav literally, I'll go into it now another time, but warned me ahead of time about the stroke. I just didn't know until it happened that he's got to go fight him on another level.
I remember him saying that too.
We'll see. I got the chills. Another for later. But what I knew was Chernobyl was going to turn around. Sure enough, 2 years later, 3 years later, National Geographic publishes a study.
I saw that, yeah. It was
Life
amazing.
is blooming in Chernobyl. They don't know why. Life is thriving. Maybe nuclear radiation's not so bad after all. Satan comes in, right? So the University of Texas, no one can explain it. We went to the ocean after the Deep Horizon accident. We went down there with Zohars and special meditations. 2 days later, the oil disappeared. They don't know how it disappeared. Google it, Deep Horizon. But now it's how many years later? They're saying, oh, the bacteria ate it up because they can't even find it at the bottom of the sea. No, what the Zohar does is it disassembles its atoms, and just rearranges it into something else.
It's like the intelligence of God.
Yeah. So some people aren't ready to handle it. But we could, my mother, inoperable kidney cancer, and they couldn't stand that I was involved in Kabbalah, my family, at first, right? And so, not that they knew what Kabbalah was. We grew up as secular Jews, so I knew nothing growing up, And when I went to Hebrew school and asked questions, I never got an answer. Why do we do this? Because it's written. And why do we do that? Because it's written. I said, fuck it. I'm not interested. I went to science books and I found answers, but then I saw even the physicists are full of ego. They're leaving God out of the equation. Why? Just be open and honest. Okay. But anyways, I forgot what I was going to say.
God and science conversion?
No.
Oh, my mother.
Cancer.
My
Your
mother. So when she gets cancer, I said, now will you take the Zohar? She took it. She goes back to the doctor. She's crying. She calls me on the phone crying. Don't tell your sisters that I told you this, but he said it was a miracle. It was a miracle. It's gone. It's gone. You know how many miracle stories?
We saw a lot of it. We saw a lot of it go on, didn't we?
Oh.
We'll have to have you back.
But don't believe.
No.
Have your own experience with the Zohar, and then, write in your miracle stories.
Just scan the letters. You don't have to know what it says.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna talk more about this because you need to know, and this is the time.
Yeah.
So love you. Love you.
Love you too.
Love you.
Love you both.
Oh, you see